welcome. I started looking into the Carolina Bays because I feel like the interpretation that they're impact craters of some sort is false, and that they're caused by water. Basically, the global flood caused by the Earth's expansion process, caused water to flow, inclusive of over here, especially over here, across this region, draining out here and here, through from all the way over here, just through this whole region. So water's all over the place. Water for sure was in this region here. What exactly is going on over here? So the topic at hand is the Carolina Bays. Images, which are like this. Just these like repetitive ovals, one after another, just like oval, 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 oval. Incredible. Then I saw this. There's some over here. It's interesting. I don't know if I can find them right now. I haven't tried to find them. Let's see if I can find them. I guess they're saying over here. Like here. Whoa. Dendrites. Maybe. I don't know, maybe. Okay. Before I get too caught up on where exactly they can be found, looks like in over here. In over here, you say, huh? Mm-hmm. Nebraska. Generally in the eastern segment thereof. So here. Let's check it out. Oh my god. So generally found here, you say? Here, you say? This is, of course, just people, but they presumably are here. I don't know how to find them. Let's take this labels out of here. It's crazy, the grid. Oh my god, the grid. I don't know. Let's just move on and just presume that they're generally in this region. Just take their word for it. I guess, not presume, take their word for it. Even though I'm not finding them, which is a little sketchy, because I kind of want to take their word for it. It's not like, let's take their word for it. I just want to, because it's a reasonably interesting location. Okay, but I can't find them. But this kind of looks generally, overall of that shape, interesting. Okay. I mean, these seem to be ones that are just considered known. Edgar, Nebraska. Let's go to Edgar, Nebraska. Like, does it have to be within the boundaries? Or just nearby? It must be. Like, maybe? I don't know. What is happening? Like this. It's interesting in this. It's like places that dried out and places that are still saturated or something. You know, like revealing to some underlying structure kind of way, maybe. I don't know. Or vice versa. Okay, okay. So, the reason I started recording is because I was sitting here just looking, and then some things occurred to me. Some really, and first of all, I'm looking over here. I was just trying to find them, so this is a good example of one. Columbus County, North Carolina. These just scattered, and they're just littering this region. That's interesting. This region feeds into here. This here seems generally related to this. Like, the presence of all of these along this path is really revealing, honestly. So my interpretation is that basically there was an ocean here. The undercurrent of magma released from the mantle puncture hole. Watch my videos before. Earth's undercurrents, if you don't know what I'm talking about. The undercurrent of hot magma that flowed from Pakistan everywhere, that at some point reached North America and flowed beneath the single landmass crust of the earth, but reached this chunk that would become the overlying crust that was supported by this flowing material. That chunk that was North America had an ocean on top of it, just like there's an ocean on top of here. So it's basically oceanic crust at the time when the Earth was a single landmass. Relatively speaking, it behaved like it, even though it's now continental crust. Relative to, like, the new ocean crust. So this supported an ocean, and so it caused a heat exchange, which then rapidly cooled the magma to produce a support structure beneath North America that led to the Laurentian boundary, and then it also pushed out the subsequent, the batholith that runs along the western boundary of North America to support the accreted additional distance of overlying material that would just be kind of built up there. So, there's a lot of water flowing in this region, and it seems to have probably cycled then. So this is my thoughts, is while this is happening, the heat exchange is causing the ocean above to basically evaporate. It then rains, and in the water that's not evaporating is caused to move like heated atoms do. They're just jostled by the energy. They're moved by the energy because they're physically getting hit by heat particles, essentially. Because heat is just really subtle particles that are able to enter into more dense systems. So my thought is there's water involved, and here's the Appalachians. So there's this boundary that kind of like tends the water on this side to go over here. But mind you, there's this ocean here, and there's this boundary here. So this ocean that's getting heated and like moving around starts to physically, like, within the container that it's in, swirl, like, gain current speed and move and move and move and move, and but like not just move randomly, but seemingly move in an actual like spiraling way that has a like nucleus that then is swirling. I wonder if it's happening going on up here. The reason I'm thinking about up here is because it occurred to me, well, everything I say, I connect to like ammonites, and I was like considering this article mentioned the concept that the Carolina Bays are suggested to have been caused by an impact that is suggested to have been here that then sprayed impact debris over here and caused the base, which I think is kind of ridiculous, honestly. But besides the point, I just started looking like, well, maybe there's some like general merit to what they're saying, though, even though like the concept that it's an impact is not valid. Like maybe the origin that they're pointing to, like when I search for this and I see these things like all of Carolina Bays, and then I just see this like with interesting over there too, but here. Same location, pretty much. Same location. So I'm just like, well, maybe there's some relevance to the overall that they exist to that location then, which is interesting because my interpretation beforehand was generally that just the mountains, like the water flows away from the mountains. And of course it's water caused, and that's about it. I didn't really go into depth, but now that I'm like realizing there's probably more nuance to it and able to maybe glean some of that nuance and starting to maybe actually, I am like hit record. So I was looking at this like, this is kind of interesting. What's going on here? These are my thoughts that I'm just going to share as I was like trying to reason this through. Is essentially initially the mantle punctured hole is here, and a current flows this way, through this way, across here, which is interesting that's where, I wonder if I can pull this up yet. It may work. Their website is really probably under maintenance. It's just been lagging. Not loading. Oh, shiza. Loaded like Okay. Yeah, so Turkey, interesting. Here's the mantle puncture hole. Here's this pathway up here that has a width of about this wide initially, but like seemingly widens around here and goes across here. So here's Turkey. Here's where that earthquake happened. At, generally, maybe at this boundary in this region. That this boundary, like a current came in and just ran into a maybe some like molten material that's at that represents, like a current it actually is there and it's hit that material and like led to upward energy propagation and downward. I don't know, but that's interesting. My last video was about the earthquake in Turkey. That's why I this was kind of interested to see, and it does look related. I consistently, practically since the beginning of these underground science videos, I've been talking about this as being the mantle puncture hole, and that it basically flowed this way. And then here in Turkey, maybe a little bit of like this region filled with pressure, I believe, and essentially outgassed, expelled this way, breaking through this boundary that was forming here, and just breaking through from pressure over here because of this returning current that then just like comes through this way. Maybe just this current is just doing it, and the gasket aspect of it is not valid. But I feel like the gasket aspect, it has merit. So I'm not sure what to think. It's almost like if there's an earthquake here, then like energy returning to the region to go in. Because like, so maybe it will influence this region, which can cause an earthquake over in the Himalayas. I don't know. Part of me is I hypothesize things. Will it happen? Oh shit, it happened. Millions of people dying. Or whatever, you know. So a current seemingly flowed this way though. And then it generally did not heat exchange because it really just stayed this like thing that has no like nothing like this going on, just a current flowed. And then over here it ran into a region where it started to heat exchange with the ocean, which then caused this wall to form at the boundary, and a general Laurentia boundary that then got carved into by other currents involved in the process, flowing all over the place, every which way. But so this, though, was heat exchanging. As it came in, it's heat exchanging with the ocean above it, which then perhaps is leading to like a eddy below. I mean, there's certainly like the Bighorn Basin or Bighorn Mountain here, Yellowstone here, regions that are kind of focal points of, or maybe it's like here, I don't know. It's somewhere like a focal point relative to this one, like there. So, I was thinking, well, I noticed this. Before I get into this, some other things I noticed. I was just kind of like, okay, maybe this is interesting, and then this is interesting the way this is happening. It's like a drainage point that influences a boundary. That then, like, this drainage point leads to this, like, end. This one leads to, like, this end. This one leads to right here, just adjacent. This one leads to here. Then I noticed it's kind of got this thing going on. I was trying to think where I've seen this kind of thing before to relate it to, especially. But essentially, it made me think like a dendritic thing going on where it starts from one and then it leads into many. Dividing like little tabs out. Okay, so this is my thoughts, is because there's these paths, these channels that lead to specific points that don't seem random in terms of the actual structure of the coastline, like it actually leads to a non-random point at the structure of the coastline, which is kind of interesting. In terms of that regard, it seems like maybe related, like maybe this is even representative of the process in some way, on a like how shallograms will have them this way and then they'll have them this way, and they'll literally be like perpendicular to one another and but pointing at each other's chakras in interesting ways that are suggestive that there's actually like that thing going on. Okay. So my thoughts are, because there's this natural barrier that was physically forced up by this undercurrent flowing in this region that then caused solidification of the material and created a boundary over here. So it just created this boundary that then underneath the crust started to push up into it, create a mountain range basically. And maybe other things, I'm not sure, like also above, I don't know. I haven't looked into the Appalachians that much, where what I'm saying about them may be pretty off base, but like I'm fairly certain that this support structure is generally what uplifted them and has been eroded to a point where some things about them are make them older and in different ages, because there's different like steps in the process when the current came in this way and then it came in this way, and there's probably more times when it maybe like a transitional phase when it was going in both directions, like from this way and from this way. So it's pushing a boundary this way, but also pushing this way more across time, because the current ended up going around this chunk that it created because it just created back pressure. So the current was like, well, I guess I'll go this way. And it went over this way instead. But then it seemingly like pushed into here and interacted with the North America and Central Atlantic Magmatic Province. Generally interacted like in this way. So I guess that's only there. If it's not the whole of it, I don't know. Let's see. Yeah, so it pretty much came down the coastline until it ran into resistance and then flowed atop the crust and beneath it up here because it was flowing this way. So I guess it physically broke the barrier here, went underneath and atop it, and flowed across here. But that was earlier. Although it was probably until it like broke through down here. It was doing that. It was spilling up, but then it broke through and then was able to go below this segment of crust. Okay, so those are some things we've got in mind, and then this point here, back to here, I noticed immediately this is of interest. Like for sure, this is for sure of interest right here, of very much interest, in fact. Yes, and then maybe it goes through this way, maybe it like bends. It even looks like it does like abruptly bend. Maybe go through there. Cross that way. And then maybe abruptly bend there. Like in... So my thought was, what if, like it starts here, and then it goes this way, around, and like physically, or maybe physically spirals pretty much this way around here maybe. Because like there's this, it kind of goes off that way. This, if we look at it from this angle, like here, and kind of like this general shape here, it's kind of got ammonite features. I know people are like, what the fuck, dude? Maybe this one might be a good one. Let's see. Because it's not really an ammonite. It is it's an ammonite because it's the same thing that causes them both, but it's just the earth. So it's more like maybe appropriately able to be matched to draw some inferences. So maybe this here is some kind of center that then starts to go off this way. Having like a yin yang. That's right, I was thinking there could be like a yin yang aspect to it. Like if there's an ocean that starts to heat up and evaporate and swirl and just carve into the surface. Maybe to like this boundary. Like this looks like This is very reminiscent of over here. Where, for again, all my Dwarka videos, I guess, but especially Earth's undercurrents, there's a current that carves this and basically does so step by step and creates gaps. So like a current is flowing from a side over here through a resistance and carving openings repetitively, and also it can carve like steps like this kind of thing. To be here's some of those kind of things like along the boundary of eastern coast of North America. Like and here for sure a current is flowing because we have a shallogram here that is related to the doom shape and all sorts of things, but that then carves into this region. Okay, so with those things in mind, before I forget what I was talking about, what I was seeing, this right here reminds me of it, and it's even got like a point to this. Like an energy was just flowing in and really carving around. It's like an arrowhead. Yeah. There. Looks like here. Interesting. So these probably points to the Hudson Bay. This one not so much. Where's this point? This one points. Although on a smaller globe, it's hard to say. I mean, that one really points to Hudson Bay, and specifically even really towards here. Could this be a huge ammonite with like Greenland being the opening of like the final chamber or whatever? That would be crazy. Let's see what that looks like here. Does that make any sense here? Honestly, if anything, it might be more sense as like the dendritic region from this angle at least, if anything. Whoa. It just occurred to me, what if this is like maybe this or this of this ammonite? It kind of goes out here. Like, could this be a really big ammonite that I have not noticed? Well, certainly something's up here of interest. I was wondering also earlier, like, if this is a vortex center that then has spiraling around it to a degree, is it detectable in the terrain itself? Because essentially my thought is, like, this is a main gear that was turning of the water, and then this is like a tangent, a adjacent one. Like this. Pardon me, Graham. I was trying to make a point to Graham Hancock. Like, hey man, you said this right, and this right, and this right, and this right, and this right.
Flows. The crust.
This and this. So like this is like the Hudson Bay, but with water above, and then like the Great Lakes. So like an adjacent system that's much bigger than this one. Almost need Google Earth. Let's just check it out. I know I still haven't gotten to what I was talking about. Like, what, dude? I might forget too. I still remember. It may not be as cool now as when I first thought of it, but I just want to real quick see if there's any ammonite thing going on. Maybe centered more here. I don't know. Here's the terminal, if you will, that the current goes around. Because it cuts in this way, around it, back in this way, and then in this way, but then this way. So it goes through here, current goes through here. And then a second current is going this way, through here, across here, which this was over down here. So really going through like Greenland also, before the gap opened. Like this width is pretty much this to somewhere up here, like a width here, but it's not the same anymore because it just moved. And then this current didn't flow into here, it flowed this way. So I'm just thinking, like, okay, so we got currents going, one current going this way, generally speaking, and another going this way. So here is almost like an X, marks the spot. That then just within it, like within the boundary, a like swirling energy of the ocean above is flowing. energy. Well, this current's going this way, so that would encourage it to swirl this way and then this way. So it would have to swirl like this. So it would put a current this way, which then would spin this way. Because it's contained. Like this current goes over here, but it runs into this containment region of the Appalachians and is caused to basically eddy off of the boundary of the Appalachians. Like this, like off of the boundary. And just spin off of it. And creates this region, perhaps. Leading into other things I'm going to talk about, but also, before I forget about it, let's just get to it. So there's a current. What made me think of like, okay, I gotta hit record. So before I get to that, imagine there's a swirl here. There's current coming down this way that's swirling here. Or this way. I don't know why I would produce specific points for Carolina Bays over here in this instance, except for other relationships. But essentially I was thinking, okay, this creates a boundary, but this creates an outlet, so it can go either this way, and it goes out through the Mississippi, and the boundary that it once flowed through, still visible, and flowed out here. And pretty much drained just this quantity of of salt that's really, really thick in this region. So there's a bunch of salt deposited here, probably because of just like large quantities of salt that were being precipitated out of the water by the process. I wonder, I mean, it certainly is if you start boiling it. And then it probably would like start to separate, like the rain would create a layer on top, but then it would just evaporate and like essentially create a separation that would lead to a lot of the salts being potentially dissolved out and drained here, specifically through this process. Maybe even being like a saltwater path and a freshwater separation where the undercurrent went this way and the higher material went in the higher terrain. So like the more freshwater was able to flow this way, but it was still stuck in this channel here and flowed along this whole channel basically as far up as it could, and probably over top, because it may have been so much water to just overwhelm the whole region, but just still perform this process at some stage in the at some stage in the process it still occurred, that there was the circumstances for the like surface features to form, for the current to specifically flow this way and then drain out of the boundary at drainage points that then are related to these things, and then also in so doing, as the water's flowing, creating these like elongated vortices because the current's flowing, but it's like running into resistance. I guess something of that nature. Just so much current that there's resistance that leads to eddies. I don't know exactly why the Carolina Bays are precisely resulting in the process and only where they are. It's still kind of a conundrum in what I'm saying, even though it really does appear to like shed some light on the process. So over here, this thing, if we go over this way, here's where the Devil's Tower is. Here's Bighorn National Forest. Here's Bighorn Basin. Here's Yellowstone. Here's some other generally possibly nucleus type thing. And it just goes all the way over to here, this stretch. Maybe to here even. Oh, this looks so nice and crisp, and after it not loading whatsoever. If we follow this line, this boundary here, maybe this one too, but this one is maybe a little more clear in this region. If we follow this, it takes us to here, which then is actually like seemingly related to the Mariana Trench, and I've talked about this a little bit, how I think there's a current from essentially this current that's pressuring into this region, and maybe it pressures up here too, like flows in this way, but then it's at some point it's flowing in this way here, and it's just breaking this apart and pushing it in here, but then running into resistance and creating a lot of the circumstances going on over here, including ultimately like playing into Yellowstone's location maybe. But then I think it continues to, like, in coupling with this current, two currents are generally interacting in this point, as well as this current flowing this way as it goes up. This current over here goes up along this boundary to here. So there's all these currents interacting here in this region. One from up here going across, one from down here going across, that meet at Yellowstone, by the way. And then this third one that cuts across those and goes into this region through Bighorn Mountain, which is here, through this region here, which is here, through this flame coming out of a mouth on a nostril with a like horn. I know. But this goes across this way and seemingly is pretty closely related to this physical location, like another boundary that maybe is tied to this and this. where it kind of, or even like that. I wonder if this right there is this. This goes this way, this way, this way. If I follow it this way, it really goes way up there. I wonder if it was like that, and then it like pushed out a segment. I don't know. I don't know. In the support structure, as it was stabilized, they started with more of like a weird shape. I don't know. But it seems to have gone generally to this corner, at least that. So there's this current coming in this way, creating that boundary, and then this current, and this current that went around this current, which is still the same current, it's just two parts of it, one forming a solid mass, one that goes around it, wraps around it, and then fans out in a V shape here. This is it going up and then running into that, like, the wrench of boundary here. Goes up, runs into the boundary, and then up over this way to basically these points. So it goes over to this one, into this one, down here, but also like over top it or below it. Actually, I think below it in these ways. So it basically goes up to here. Although these ones aren't as evident in this region, which is really in this region. So what does the Carolina Bays have to do with all that? There's this hot spot over here, so I guess there's a counter cold spot over here. Positive, negative, which tends to happen. Cold spot here. I don't know if there was some form of a hot spot here. This is kind of interesting. Just abrupt change in water and a boundary in the terrain itself. Current comes in here, this way, and this way. It kind of separates here in a way. Making another corner, but this one is a current separating, so maybe it just like doesn't produce an eddy in the same way as two currents coming together, like one this way, because they are colliding. They induce a spiral, but over here it's just one separating. Maybe it just doesn't. do that. It more so does it because it's running into some divider. Something's dividing it, but it's not inducing that type of structure like this. Wonder. Current goes this way and this way, so they'd have to spiral this way. If we generally see that. That's interesting. Maybe there's an ammonite type thing here. I don't know, guys. Maybe this wasn't the most useful video. I did want to look around. Oh yeah, there's something else I noticed. Real relevant, really. Not only is there this like boundary thing, but it also starts to have like V shapes. So here's a V shape. And then especially noticeable down here, like a petal. And here. And then down here a little bit. Made me think that there might be something of that nature to it. But I remember looking for Carolina bays. That's what initially got me just doing this, was just like, well, maybe I can find some. And finding them not align in the ways that they're said to. Maybe like here. I need some really distinct ones. Where I'm like, okay, that's a Carolina bay. We should really look in like this region right here. That's a good sign that I was even able to find a bunch of things that are reminiscent of Carolina bays by basically picking where this joint like spread out. Like up here, the joint spreads out and then just along the joint is a bunch of these. Or is this the place? Wherever it was, maybe here. I don't think this was it, but this has the minutes. Interestingly, they are not in any way associated with this angle. Maybe like there were two currents. One was draining, and then another was atop it, flowing more uniformly in a way where the drainage below and the one atop it at times interacted and caused eddying. I don't know. Just a thought for why that would not be whatsoever related to the angle of this. I think earlier I just kind of, because it was in the angle, didn't think about it. If I can even find, here it is. Here it is. Yeah, this one was just kind of in the angle. That's interesting. But there are a prevalent amount of them there relative to the surroundings. Like, they certainly are visible around here a lot, but they're not like I'm not sure I can say they're in this image. I don't see any distinctly here, but real close by, there's a bunch of them. And they do seem to be in this region. Okay. You guys know what I'm saying, if you know what I'm saying. This also between them, which is a good sign that it's related to some step in the process, maybe. Maybe up here, let's see. I mean, I see things of that nature. I guess they're there. So I'm thinking this is a good spot for sure to compare. See, they're abnormal too. Like, if they're really impacts, they should be more consistent. Like, what kind of impact does this? Like, I get we can explain the oblong ellipse-shaped ones relatively simply with impacts. Like, I get how we can actually arrive at some pattern that is like that with an impact explanation, is what I'm saying. But, like, we can't for, like, a lot of them. This one looks explainable by an impact, let's say. But, like, this... Like, some of them, it would just become ridiculous to imply, but they're clearly made by the same process. Just because they don't look the same, it's kind of unreasonable to separate them. Like, this one and this one, only the ones that look pretty enough are the bays that we care about. Like, it's just not really doing justice to them. There's probably some here. Whoa. What is that? What in the... Naval outflying field. Oh my god. You guys waste so much money. Space. Like, oh my god. This is huge. Like, think of how much space. Could you imagine just having that much land to just do whatever the fuck? What the fuck? It looks like a temple or something. Anyway, pardon me. Let's see if I can find... Okay, this region for sure is making me think there's probably some bays in there. Salt drainage over here, but then maybe water was kind of cycling here also. Heat here though, pushing like this way beneath, like, but like a current flowing, maybe like encouraging water this way to cause it to cycle here. This is coming down this way. Maybe just the general that the Rockies are there also. And like the water comes down this way. Exits here, but it runs into the Rockies still and like cycles here. Which then just causes this continuous like evaporation of the salt here, maybe? I don't know what this is. I wish when I clicked the things, like even though I don't have labels on, it would tell me. White Sands Missile Range. Okay, maybe there's not salt in there. I know there's someplace. Maybe I'm thinking it was sand. Pretty sure that's salt flats. Okay, there we go. There's salt flats. Okay. So this is probably salt here. This just seems like it went from over here and like got over that way. So maybe it was just because it's sand related to the process, some separation. I mean, the mere fact that I'm able to find these Carolina bays now pretty easily, like in the past, honestly, every time I look, I'm like, where the fuck are they? Like, I can see that one, okay, fine. But now I know that near this one is a bunch there. But I really had gone through, I see a bunch of them now here. I wonder if they like have a tendency to exist past this boundary. I don't see any. See this channel that goes to here. I wonder, maybe in this region. Not even really there. I mean, nothing really. Certainly nothing up there. So they do seem to generally appear to be restricted. Maybe that's kind of one, I'm not sure. I think they're distinguished as the oval ones because of the angle that they are. That one didn't seem to be an angle in line with the rest. Yeah, I'm not seeing any past this boundary. This boundary here. Inside of it. Let's find a bunch of them here. There's a bunch of them here. Like we can see these. And just follow it, follow it. I can still see them. They really do just fade out at that boundary. So did the impact cause this boundary too? You know? So it certainly is not caused by an impact conclusively, even if any other reasonings for impacts. Like it can't be caused by an impact if they're all past this boundary. And then also tend to be found within these pockets. Even down here. I did find something down here, right? Maybe it's not as prolific over here. Could have sworn I found something though. I don't want to just say it's over in this one because I want it to be here. Maybe I did that. Whoa, what's this? Humans. Let's see if we can find some. So here, this for sure. Which is not following that rule I just said, where they tend to be here. But it is related to an outlet. So maybe I can find them. I wonder if we can find them other places. They just haven't been recognized. They do seem to just be specific locations though. Also, I noticed this goes down, that goes around here. It kind of has this like conduit into Florida that then has a really narrow band down the center of Florida that then comes to like this thing. Almost like a snake head that was not opened, but the mouth is doing some mouth thing, but just didn't fully do the mouth thing. And then it's got a tongue out licking. Doing its little sensing. Crazy. This even goes up here and to the Appalachians and seemingly is energetically tied to them. Interestingly. So I'll have to think about this a little bit more. I'm fairly certain that there is some kind of spiraling of energy going on here. Specifically, this is coming in this way, so it's going this way here. And then down here, it's going this way. And then down here, maybe it's going this way, I don't know. Somewhere. And then the exiting here. So anything that doesn't go through here, maybe it went up like this and swirled pretty much, creating another gear in this location, generally speaking, that's rotating and causing it to go back that way. To exit between the two gears. Did that make sense? This way, clockwise, counterclockwise. So this one would be clockwise. Yep, okay. Where its boundary maybe ultimately is actually there, but it more so over here. Maybe limited by this current of undercurrent that flowed this way. Whoa. Now these I could see calling Carolina Bays. Like a mouth. It's got like a nucleus coming out of it, feeding into another mouth with like a bunch of energy coming out of it. That's heat exchange with the water, I guess. Is that possible? That's what's going on. Like, what in the fuck? Oh my god. There's gotta be images. Here we go. Here we go. It doesn't have those, like, this. Like, what is that? What the fuck? Checking out Hooker County, Nebraska. Geology. Mr. Data. Okay, Mr. Data. Whoa. Rolling hills. Mounds. Is this one of those places that are like, what are these mounds? Pleistocene. Oh. There must be some pictures of these things. What is that? Like, that is weird. Doesn't look man-made. Are they just oil drip? Maybe it's man-made and they're fucking oil taps. Maybe they are. I don't know. They do kind of look like they could be that. Is this whole region just like oily? I don't know. Let's see. Nebraska oil fields. Oh yeah, there it is. There it is. Ugh, that's why it looks so nasty. Just look at that nasty spot on the earth. Ugh. Okay, so that's what that is. Good to know. So there's a bunch of oil here to that degree where it's just like immediately noticeable in what people are doing. It's interesting. Okay. That would be in this location. Okay, I've certainly said enough for now. I'll be back. That's what I got to say for now. Thanks for listening. If you made it through this one, I know it's probably a little slow. I don't know. Sometimes I listen. I'm like, no, it's fine. I just other times like, dude, talk louder. Stop just mumbling to yourself. Oh my god, disaster. All right, peace.